It's an exciting moment for us as an organization and also for the field, I think, because this data mapping project is going to be able to show for the first time really how much media funding is out there, by whom, where, and really see the bubbles on the map come alive. And I think it's fair to say that most people think of media funding as a small arena, a handful of usual suspects, and then the occasional other funder. After they thank you for the support of viewers like you, there's a little list of other funders on particular programs that we hear on the radio or on the television. But this is really exciting to see literally thousands of funders and billions of dollars of funding for a broad range of media in the public interest. So I think foundations have a very important role. We see now with the data mapping project that it's actually substantial, and yet I think there could be more support, and that foundation support wouldn't have to be enormous to make a big difference in the media ecosystem, particularly in areas like radio. I think public radio is a really important part of the community media ecosystem. The local public radio stations are owned and operated mostly at the local level through community institutions, through educational institutions, and they much more reflect the community information needs of the places where they're broadcasting from, rather than in commercial media. It's a much more highly consolidated field of large companies owning hundreds of stations, directing a satellite feed of content to a community where they have no really serious relationships. Well, this is one of the trickiest questions, is how do we navigate the thorny issue of money and influence? But of course, it's always been true, and if you ran a daily newspaper 20 years ago, you might get the local car dealership to come in and complain about your coverage of toxic emissions or what have you. So you've always had this important editorial line, the firewall between the publisher and the editor. And it's equally true for philanthropic support of media as it is for commercial revenue in media. And it's something that one system is not better than the other, and one system is not more susceptible to that influence than the other, but every media organization has to police its integrity, its own integrity, every day. It's not a thing that's won once and for all and once and for good, but has to be maintained every day. The other side of it, though, is the responsibility for the funder is to recognize that support for media has to be disinterested, has to be detached, and has to recognize that the media organization needs its credibility or it's a wasted grant. Because if you're just giving money that everyone knows is conflicted, then you're not supporting an institution that has any influence in the wider world. Well, I think objectivity was always a loaded word, and I think disclosure is important, and fairness is important, and accountability is important. So we all bring our perspective to our reporting. As a former reporter, we always had a point of view, and I think there's a lot more tolerance now for journalism that has a point of view or a basis of knowledge, and it's better than taking a false pose of objectivity that nobody really believes anymore anyway. we live in a 24/7, always-on news environment, and things are happening fast, and things are happening all the time. And if the foundation world wants to be part of the public debate, if it wants to be influential in moving issues in the public debate, we can't take a couple weeks off. We can't be on an academic, comfortable, old school calendar that says, well, we're closed for the month. We have to be ready in communications and in other ways to respond to events which happen tragically and catastrophically, and we have to be, at least have some sensibility that if something happens, particularly in our area of interest, we ought to be able to respond to it more quickly. And I recognize that some people think it's the foundation, and indeed it is the foundation's role to have a long view, but also that doesn't mean that we shouldn't also as a field have an ability to respond in a rapid fashion. Foundations tend to be, I think, conservative in their posture, particularly to the public debate. They don't want to be lose their standing in the community as having a kind of a respectable position in the community. I think they do sometimes have boards that have different points of view, and that they are limited in how far they can move, how fast they can move. But I think that as foundations develop strategies for particular issues where, again, they want to change the public debate over the issues they're concerned about, they're going to have to take stronger positions and find ways to make their whole institution, and particularly boards, more comfortable taking positions that might not be comfortable for everyone.